guys, welcome back to Ashar Books. Today I'm going to be doing a book haul. So these are definitely not the books I've bought like super recently. These are probably the books I've bought over the past like 6 months or so. And I really haven't been buying a large quantity of books. I've been trying to be a little more selective in what I buy a physical copy of. My goal is to buy only copies of things that I've read and really love to keep on my shelf, but I usually do get sucked into Barnes & Noble or like used bookstore browsing and buy some that way as well because it's just one of my favorite things to do ever. I probably won't have too many book hauls, but I did think this would also kind of be a fun way to share. I've read quite a few of these as well, or at least some of them, so I thought it would be fun to kind of share some of the books I also read over the past few months when I wasn't putting up videos, so you could kind of see some of the stuff I read. I won't go into too much detail about these just because we're going to be here forever because it's pretty decent stack, but I will tell you if I have read them and maybe just like a general thought on them. The first two ones that I bought, which I was so excited to see at the bookstore, was Hot House Flower and Kiss the Sky by Krista and Becca Ritchie, which are two of the books from the Calloway Sisters series. And I feel like I don't talk about this series that much, mostly because I read it a really long time ago, like originally, but this is one of my all-time favorite series. It's so good. I really love it. And I have wanted to own the physical copies of the whole series, but they are pretty expensive to buy. And so I think I got these for like $5 each at my used bookstore. So I was giddy. And I really want to reread them. I have reread both of these a couple of times actually, but I just don't always put it on Goodreads because I don't always put rereads on there. Maybe I should. Next, I have a couple books that I have read, and the first one is In the Weeds by B.K. Borison. This is a contemporary romance, and it's actually the second book in the, I don't remember what the series is called, as per usual, but I read this one back in the fall, and I really liked this one. I didn't read the first one, which is the one that's like the Christmas one. I need to go back and read it, but this one I really loved. It is sweet. I thought it was super romantic. We actually read this for my, I'm part of a book club in person, and there was kind of some mixed feelings on this one. I think some of us really loved it and some not so much, but I thought it was just the most romantic book ever, and I loved our main character Beckett. He was just swoony, so loved that one. And then we have one of my favorite reads of 2022, which was The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I absolutely loved this book, and I had to have a copy of it. It's so good. If you haven't picked this up, definitely do. I read it back in the fall. It's perfect for fall, but I mean, you can read it whenever because it does have to do with ghosts. But like it's paranormal, but not really paranormal like it is, but it's perfect. I absolutely adore this book. 5 stars, 6 stars, all the stars. And I'm so happy to have a copy of it. Also, I just had to mention, I'm really sorry about the lighting if it's kind of dark because it is 11 a.m. and it's so dark outside. It's one of those super gloomy, rainy days that just, there's no sun. So I have like every light in the house on trying to make some light, but I feel like it's still kind of dark, but it's the only time I had to film this. So anyways, I just wanted to mention that in case you're like, why are you sitting in the dark? That's why. The next one I haven't read, but I'm really excited to, and I actually just got the audiobook for this, so I think I'm gonna try and listen to it soon. And that's The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. I think everybody knows about this book, and I have not read it yet. So I already stuck a bookmark in there because I think I'm gonna read this one this month in March. I don't know. I want to pick it up. I want to see what it's about. I know a lot of people love it. There are kind of mixed feelings on this one, but that's okay. I think I want to see where I fall on that. And like I said, I'm excited to have the audiobook for this from the library. So probably going to see this one coming up in a wrap up soon. The next one I bought, I have not read, and that is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. I had the best of intentions of reading this one in the fall because I know everybody's been loving this book. They say it's just such a warm, cozy read. So I do still plan on reading this. I just didn't get to it in the fall. But I am super excited to read it because it's like about a witch. And I actually don't know much about it except for it's about a witch and it's supposed to be warm and cozy. And people said it kind of gave them the same vibes as like The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, and I love that book. So I'm hoping it's kind of like similar situation, and hope to read it soon. The next one I have read, and if you watched my wrap up, you'll know that I was reading the Veronica Speedwell series by Tina Rayburn, and I bought the first 2 books. Now the first one I don't have with me, I do own it, but I gave it to my mom because I thought she would really like it, so I gave that to her to read. But I do have the second book, and I did start buying these. I don't know if I'll buy all of them, but I wanted to buy the first couple of them, mostly so I could talk about them, and they have beautiful covers. I just really love the covers. And how they all kind of like a similar motif, but different colored covers. So yeah, I love this series. It's like a Victorian mystery with a nice sprinkle of romance in it, which is like a really good mixture. The next 2 are books that I have read, and these are 2 YA fantasy, I would call them fantasy romances, that I read a few months ago and just was so obsessed, and I really loved. 2 of my favorites of 2022 for sure, and that is These Hollow Vows and These Twisted Bonds by Lexi Ryan. I really, really, really like this series. It's only a duology, which I really appreciated that, you know, it wasn't like a huge amount of books. It has fae in it. There is a love triangle. So there's one of the guys here, and then one of the guys is on the back. There is a love triangle, but I will say, as somebody who has strongly hated them for all of her life, it didn't bother me in this series, and I actually thought it was done really well, and it didn't annoy the crap out of me. So if you're looking for a fantasy romance, definitely pick this duology up. Was it a little bit predictable, and was it like the most original thing? No, it wasn't super, super original, but I loved it nonetheless, and just really wanted, let me put it this way. I read this one before this one was out, and the day this one came out, I don't know if you can see that over there. The day this one came out, I ran to Barnes & Noble and bought the hardback, which if you know me, you know that's pretty rare because I don't love reading hardbacks, A, and B, I don't like paying for hardbacks. So the fact that I went and got this like as soon as it came out, or at least soon after. It may not have been like the day, but it was like pretty soon after. It's saying something. Next, I have a couple of more contemporary romances that I picked up, and most of these I did buy new. This one I bought Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey, and this one, yes, it's a novella, but I love this book, and it was one of my favorites of 2022. I bought this one at a used bookstore, not used bookstore, a small independent bookstore in my hometown over the holidays, and I immediately read it. This is the book I read over Christmas, like when I was away with my family, and I loved it, guys. It's so, so good. If you haven't picked this up, pick it up now. I don't care that it's not Christmas. I will say I like that it was pretty Christmassy, because that's my one complaint with Christmas books usually, is there's not enough Christmas in them, or like holiday, joy. But I just love this book. It's one of my favorite Tessa Baileys I've read, so definitely pick it up if you haven't. And then I picked up a copy of Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I know this series has very kind of, divided fronts. I am on the side that loved this one. It's chunky, it's long, maybe a midge too long, if I'm being honest. I think it could have been pared down a little bit and still been delightful. But I really loved this. I loved Knock 'Em Out. I loved our character. I thought it was super funny. It had me laughing out loud. The humor just really worked for me, and everything worked for me. I loved this. I haven't read the second one yet. I know it's out. I'm kind of waiting, and I'm gonna read it. Nash wasn't my favorite brother. It's about the brother from this one, who's the cop. He's a police officer, and I don't know, he wasn't my fave character, so I'm a little bit wary going into that one, but I still want to read it. But yeah, I love this. Had to have a copy of it because it was good. The next ones are all kind of mixed up, so I'll apologize. But then I got a copy of From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata, and I recently bought this one. They have some of her books at Barnes & Noble now, which is super exciting. I read this one years ago when it first came out. It's a figure skating romance between two people who are matched up to be pairs, figure skaters, and are mortal enemies. They really, really are. Hate to love. And I love this, so I recently reread it, and when I reread it, I saw that they had it at Barnes & Noble and had to buy a copy of it. So I'm trying to buy a few books from things I've loved in the past that I don't have a copy of. So that's what this is. And then I picked up kind of a random one, but I picked up City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty, and this is a fantasy. I don't think it's YA, I think it's adult fantasy, but they had this at Second and Charles, which is, I love Second and Charles, one of my favorite used bookstores, and they had it for like $3.95, and I've been wanting to pick this one up. It's a chunky one. I'll probably get the audiobook for this because that's kind of how I prefer to read a lot of my like higher, longer, chunkier fantasies, but it just sounds like such a cool world. This is the first book, and I know it's a series, and I do hope to read this one soon, but I haven't yet. Next one I have is Awakens by Elise Kova. I have read this one, and I think I mentioned it in my February wrap-up that I wanted to, maybe I didn't. I probably didn't actually, because I read this in January. But this is another fantasy romance series that I have been wanting to pick up for a really long time. I would call it a fantasy romance series. I know a lot of people are reading a lot of Elise Kova's like more recent books, but I actually tried one of them and didn't finish it. I mean, you have to go back to it. But this is her, I think her original series, and the cover is really pretty too. But I read this one and really liked it. It involves like obviously magic. It's about a girl who is a library apprentice in this big massive library, and then it's about her basically finding out she has all this magic. She's super like, oh my god, I don't want this magic at first, and then there's a prince. He's broody, he's dark, he has the magic. He's trying to like kind of talk her into using it, and it's just the start to a really cool series. I'm really excited to see where this one goes, and I do hope to continue on with it because I thought it was really fun. The next one is A Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem by Amanda Collins. This is one that I think I bought from a used bookstore, if I'm remembering right. I don't know much about this, to be honest. It's a historical romance, and I haven't read, you know how there's a lot of historical romances coming out recently with like in a trade paperback and with really cute covers and things like that. I actually haven't read any of those. You guys may or may not know, I love historical romance, but typically I go towards like the mass market, like, you know, typical kind of historicals. So this one sounded really good, and actually I'm pretty sure I picked this one up too because I think it has to do with a mystery, I want to say. Yeah, so the hero in it is a detective inspector, and I think the heroine kind of inserts herself into a case and is like trying to meddle basically, which because I was reading the Veronica Speedwell series, this one just sounded super intriguing, and I love this show. What's it called? Miss Scarlet and the Duke it's like a PBS masterpiece, like period piece, but it's pretty much exactly this, where he's a detective for Scotland Yard and she is a lady detective though in that one. So good. If you haven't watched Miss Scarlet and the Duke, look it up. I promise you, you will like it if you like kind of like mystery, Victorian, romance type stuff. So good. So I hope to read this one soon, but I haven't yet. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. Then I picked up a couple at Barnes & Noble the other week when they were having like a buy one, get one 50% off, which I feel like they've been doing a lot recently, which I'm down for, because for a long time I feel like they did not have many sales, but they did. So I bought these two. I put Take the Lead by Alexis Daria, and I read one of Alexis Daria's books a few years ago and really liked it. And so this one I believe is actually an older book that's been like recovered and put out by a different publisher. But it's about a dance competition. Like she's a dancer and he's this like big, what is he? I remember reading it. It's about Gina and Stone, and Gina's a dancer and like kind of like, I'm thinking like Dancing with the Stars type of thing here. And Stone needs to help his family, but he's like this big, burly, like blonde guy, and it just sounded really fun. So I hopefully will like this one. And then I bought The Roommate by Rosie Danon. I haven't read this one either yet, but I've heard great things, and I really like the plot of this one. So it is about Josh and Clara, and I know Clara is kind of like a buttoned up type of person, and then she follows who she thinks she is in love with, her best friend, follows him out to LA, which is totally off what she would normally do, and then her best friend ends up like up and leaving, because he's going on tour from what I know, and she's stuck in a house with Josh, who has a job that is not something that she would normally be interested in or kind of want to associate with, because her family's very like upper echelon. It sounds really good. I actually started this one and it's not the book. I just wasn't in a mood for contemporary at the time. So I need to pick this one up. I know some of my friends have read this and really, really loved it. So I need to pick that up soon. And then I read Consider Me by Becca Mack. I read this one in February. If you watched my wrap up, I really liked this one. So I bought a copy of it. I liked the blue cover. I thought it was really pretty. For some reason, it was speaking to me. But I really enjoyed this one, a contemporary romance. It's a hockey romance, and it's about Carter Beckett, who's like the golden retriever man whore, falls for his girl really, really hard and is just like all about her. And then it's about, what is the heroine's name? Why can't I not? Olivia? I think it's Olivia. Olivia, who is a physical education teacher in a high school and super down to earth. Really liked it. I liked this one better than the second one. The second one I still liked, but I like this one the best so far. But I'm excited for the third one because I think I know who it's about and I'm intrigued. All right, then we have a few more. I picked up Blood Air by Alona Andrews. I love the Kate Daniels series by her. Found this one at the used bookstore for like $4, which I'm pretty sure this is an indie published book. And this is the spin-off series that is following a character that you meet in the original series, and I'm really intrigued. So I need to pick this one up soon. After buying it, I kind of heard that I heard that it might be better to wait till the second one's out because there's like a lot of it's a series and there was a lot of like unwrapped up things. So I may wait a little bit on reading this one, but I really am intrigued to pick this one up. Okay, and then one of the big series that I read last year, finally, was the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. And so I picked up a couple of books, and you guys are gonna laugh because you're like, why did you pick them up out of order? I mean, I did buy the first one, Throne of Glass. Yes, it's the old covers. No, I don't really want the new ones. I'm hoping I can still finish buying the rest of the series with the old covers. So if anyone knows if I can still buy the old covers, let me know, because I'm really hoping I can. I don't mind the new covers, but I don't want them to be mismatched if possible. So anyways, I bought the first one, and then I also bought the third one. Now, I'm pretty sure if I remember why I didn't buy the second, I think I saw which ones my bookstore had, and they didn't have the second one. And so I read most of these from my library or the audiobook. So that's why when I bought the physical copies, I kind of just went with what I could find originally. But I bought Air of Fire, which is book 3. And then I bought the Kingdom of Ash, which is the last one. And the only reason I bought this one, again, my bookstore actually had it, which they didn't have the rest of them. And also because I'm pretty sure I wanted to read this one physically because it was the last book and I was all up in my emotions and my feels. So I have 1, 3, and 7? So I've got to go back and get the rest. Like I said, I'm really like hoping that I can still get the rest of the series. That is like, I'm hoping to buy like one a month, and finish it off. But I loved. It's hard to compare it to ACOTAR. I just don't know. Like, I feel like they're different. Like, it's hard to compare the series. In some ways, I feel like this one hit me harder emotionally, but I loved maybe the romance a little bit more in ACOTAR. So I don't know. They're both delightful though. Okay, almost there. A few more fantasy romances. The next one I have read, and that's Kingdom of the Feared by Carrie Maniscalco. This is the third and final book in her, once again, don't know what this series is called, but it's the one that had Kingdom of the Wicked first, Kingdom of the Cursed second, and big fan of this series. Really, really loved it. As you can see, it's a hardback, which means I had to go out and buy it when it first came out, which means I really loved it. But this one was just so good. I love it. If you like a fantasy romance, pick it up. I will say the second book was still my favorite. I think it goes like second's the best, then this one, then the first one. I was just teensy bit disappointed with the wrap up. But overall still a really solid series, and I'm so excited for her spin-off of this series that's going to be like an adult fantasy romance. It's billed as YA fantasy romance. I will say it gets pretty spicy in the second and third one, but freaking loved. And the next one, I bought Queen of Myth and Monsters by Scarlett St. Clair. This is the second book in her Adrian and Isolde series. Yeah, I know that one because she put it on there. See, that's very helpful. Put the name of the series on there. So I haven't read this one yet. I need to get to it, but I really, really liked the first one. For this one, what was the first one called? Okay, this is the second one, to the King of Battle and Blood, which I really enjoyed for the first one. But I've heard this one's super, super emotional. So I'm not gonna lie, it kind of put me off reading it for just a minute, but I'm gonna get back to it. And I really love this cover. I thought it was beautiful, so I wanted to have a copy of it. And the last three I bought all at my used bookstore. They're kind of random pickups, but like that's what kind of happens at a used bookstore, I feel like. And one was Scrooged by Vi Keelan and Penelope Ward. It's like a couple of their Christmas novellas put together, and I believe I bought it in like November thinking I'd read it for the Christmas season, and I didn't get to it, but hopefully I can get to it next year. I'm just gonna kind of set it aside and hopefully read it then because it was super, super cheap. And then we have one that I did read, and I got a copy. I was super excited to find because it was, again, one of my favorite reads of 2022, and that was Beauty and the Baller by Ilsa Madden Mills. Really liked this one. It's a contemporary romance, and it's about, she's like a former beauty queen, and it's her romance with a football player. I think, but he's a retired football player. I'm getting a little foggy on the details, but just to say I really liked this, and I was excited to have a copy of it. And the last one is The Prenup by Lauren Lane. I have not read this one. I really want to. It's pretty short, and I've read a few of Lauren Lane's other books and really liked them. And this one, I'm pretty sure, is a marriage of, yeah, it is. It says a marriage of convenience, a divorce that's anything but. So I'm pretty sure this is something where they get married and then they don't see each other for like years and years because it's not like a real marriage. And then they come back together and fall in love. And that just sounds really, really up my alley. So it was only $2.50. Like, how can you beat that? I had to buy it. So anyways, that was the last one I had. All right, so those are all the books that I've bought over the past like 6 months. It's a lot, but I feel like it's not too bad for 6 months. And I've read quite a few of them too, so good job me. But let me know, how are you guys doing with your book buying? Are you trying to buy less? Are you buying more than you normally do? And I would love to know, where do you buy the most books? Is it like Barnes & Noble? Is it Amazon? Is it your local indie bookstore? Is it like a used bookstore? I'd love to know. I always find that super interesting. But thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.